Hello, everyone.
Hey, Mark.
Oh, hi. All right, I'm going to start sharing my screen.
Wow.
All right, you can see my screen now. And welcome to our weekly For Now Sync Up. And we're here to discuss integrating confidential computing with various workload identity efforts and frameworks. First of all, if you are participating in this effort, what you want to do is you want to put yourself or mention yourself in this document, request access to it. Put your name down here on the list of folks who are involved. Right. So please do that. And I noticed, I'm going to add a section here because Mohammed made an excellent point. If you don't know where you're going, or any road will do. So I'm adding this tentatively named section called Why We're Here. And I'll give you my draft answer to that. Maybe there's a better answer. So I'm going to type it as I think. Workload identity is a key enabler of confidential computing adoption. To integrate confidential computing. And again, we'll wordsmith it later. I just want to put it out there with existing workload identity efforts and frameworks. Okay, we'll come back to that. I just wanted to so at least so broadly speaking, we're on the same page. Now, going through what we have in this document, which is very, very rough. Okay, we'll get it all cleaned up, but we're moving fast. Is there industry bodies that have an interest in workload identity, just broadly speaking? So we mentioned the ones here. And then there are some standards out there already that deal with workload identity. So SPIFFE, Whimsy, one of them. There are vendors that offer solutions in the space. Okay, and we can sort of look across this and see what, how far along, how compatible, how aligned confidential computing is with all of these. We have this document. So again, in this document, we have after the context, we have some background reading. So there is a link to the slide deck I presented at the CCC a couple of weeks back. And there is this document that I have open here. And I, again, encourage you to look at it. I'll put the link to it here. You can open it for yourself. It's a little buggy. This we can go over it in a second. But broadly specifying the set of requirements to workload identity that confidential computing needs to be able to achieve. And one of the first tasks I would love to see done is a gap analysis between, say, SPIFFE and this set of requirements, between Whimsy and this set of requirements. So we at least understand how aligned, how far along, or how conflicted we are with these. I would do the same for, like Hashmesh. I don't know if Manu is on here or not, but so that would be one thing we need to do. Another thing we need to do is make sure that we're represented in the various industry bodies that deal with workload identity. So definitely Whimsy, right? I suggested that we also talk to the RATS IETF working group, if one exists, about integration of RATS with the identity providers, right? So what's going on with NIST? Well, ZTA, but maybe something else. Cloud Security Alliance. I would like, it's on my list of things to do, but I meet with CSA in our confidential computing working group every couple of weeks, and I will pursue the angle of figuring out who else in CSA might be interested in workload identity generally, and then go start joining those conversations and figuring out to which extent confidential computing can help. All right, that's my intro. Can we do a quick, since now more people have joined, can we do a quick round of introductions? So again, me, I chair the GRC SIG, and I am, at least in temporarily, running this effort, and then we'll see how it shapes up going forward. Thomas, maybe you can go next. Yeah, and you're muted.
What do you want me to?
Just a little intro,
Right.
why are you here?
Because this is a very hot topic, and we are surely concerned with the ramification of it in terms of remote attestation and all that stuff. I'm coming here from a RATS whimsy angle, and with an implementer hat on. Cause of Verizon, right? So we want to understand exactly how a verifier would make sense of workload identity, whether how does that scale?
Okay, so based on that, can I put you as our contact with the RATS working group?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I just did that. All right. Going down the list, Itai.
Hey everyone, I'm quite new here. I actually talked to Dan Middleton yesterday, and he said, "Oh, you might find this team interesting." So I'm kind of here to learn more about what you're doing and see.
Why do you think Dan said that?
Yeah. So I'll just give you a little bit of background on myself. I do research in algorithms and distributed computing, and I've done a lot of work on kind of distributed ledgers and things related to that. So I think there's kind of a tie in that direction.
I see. So we are looking for folks to help us connect with various vendors, industry bodies, etc., standards organizations. Is there one that you can think of that you can help connect with? So again, we're maintaining a list here.
Yeah, no, I'm very far away from standards body. I'm more in the research side. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mona?
Hi, I'm Mona Vij. From Intel Labs, I lead cloud security part of SGX architecture team, been part of confidential computing since its inception, but most recently lead the Grameen project, as well as sort of I am more interested now in this lightweight TDs or lightweight CVMs, you can say. And I actually think I've been coming at this workload identity is more as a systems problem. And if you were to run lightweight TDs instead of running this giant Linux trusted boot, the problem we know existed with TXT VMs, can it be solved by, like SGX didn't have this problem of workload identity in some sense, as in, or at least it was an easier problem to tackle. Let me just say that way. I shouldn't say it didn't have this problem. I actually haven't read your document. Sorry, I just also heard that this group was formed, so I am joining. I will take a look at what you have in there. And I attend the TAC meetings off and on, so I'm not fully plugged into everything going on there. So yeah, and then RATLS came from my team, so we would just like Thomas maybe look at the attestation angle We
Yeah.
are also looking at provenance and sort of the software supply chain with the whole salsa in Toto group. That's not me directly, it's one of my team members. So I think there are lots of touch points. I will spend some time in this group and I'll read your document and see how we can
All right.
contribute.
All our documents are in this Google Drive folder, so I'm just going to put a link to that. Again, feel free to request
Please.
access.
Yes, thank you. No,
And
yeah.
for you specifically, since you seem to have an opinion on a workload identity as it relates to enclaves versus confidential VMs, you may want to do, before our next meeting, perhaps, take a look through this requirements list. And again, I already know it's a little buggy. We'll probably make some pull requests to change it, and I'll talk briefly about what that might look like. But see if you can map your thoughts onto, how various technologies, maybe enclaves versus confidential VMs, map into the set of requirements we have here, and then we can add that to our overall analysis.
Sure, sure.
All right,
I mean, I
thank you.
think, I don't know if when you talk about confidential VMs, you always think like full Linux, right? It's not the VM, we can put anything in a VM, right? So do you
Sure.
have any discussion on
Confidential
unikernel?
containers. Yeah,
Yeah,
so we have
yeah.
under, like you'll see that under the requirements, we have certain things like some workloads are long-lived, and you can perhaps tolerate a longer dance for procuring credentials for them. Maybe contact your verifier, contact your IDP, go a couple of round trips, whatnot. But if you have a serverless or container workload and it only exists for perhaps a few seconds, all of a sudden that becomes an intolerable load on your backends, and perhaps a cause for some performance degradation, and also all sorts of issues like that. So again, take a look across all the requirements and perhaps map out what you see the things maybe. Okay, Jens, welcome.
Again, good morning. My name is Jens Albers. I'm based in Princeton, New Jersey. I'm the founder and CTO of FrontierX. My background is military intelligence for the German military and cybersecurity in general. I did a lot of government advisory in Europe, but now I'm based in the US. I worked for IMD for a decade, started FrontierX, which has several open source projects utilizing confidential computing to secure workloads carrying sensitive data.
Okay. So again, the same question I'm going to ask of you. So we already talked about the Open Wallet Foundation, how you can help us with that. And you said that you may be helpful in our conversations with Whimsy. So that is also later in this hour. One of the things I want to discuss that is probably the most pressing for us is if there is any contribution we can make to the 122 IETF Whimsy meeting. So I'll come back to that, but how about stay on, and we'll circle back. Yogesh.
Hi, I'm Yogesh, and I work in ARM Cambridge. I'm interested in Whimsy because, interested in workload identity because it has overlap with RAT's remote attestation and our open source project Verizon. In addition to that, I'm also interested in seeing how it connects to Into2 and Salsa attestations going forward. And I've started reading Whimsy and try to see where the requirements coming from. Our requirements GitHub page, which Mark shared, links to some of the stuff. So done some background, but that's all about me. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. John. Oh, how do you pronounce your last name?
John Sakervike. I've been involved with a number of Web3 related technology projects, most specifically Filecoin for the last 3 years. But the confidential compute is a topic, or the entire spectrum of confidential compute is something that we've been looking at a great deal, and I'm trying to find overlap with what we've been coming up with in the Web3 space with what you guys are formally developing as a set of standards and metrics for success in this. So I'm mostly just a passive observer, but playing conduit between the Web3 world and what you guys are doing here.
Awesome. Well, whatever you can bring from your expertise into the like reviews of what we're doing would be most welcome. Thank you. David.
Hi, I'm Dave Quigley. I work for Intel. I work in the graphics accelerator, I guess compute accelerator department. I work as a security architect on our confidential compute graphics IPs and acceleration IPs. I've been pretty involved with the RATS working group. I like I said in chat, I meet and talk with the chair quite a bit. So so I have a kind of an in there if you need help with anything. I also work with this, not the standards bodies directly, but the people at Intel that interface with the standards bodies for PCI and SPDM and TDISP and stuff like that. So I have an ear there as well for people. But I got my
So when
doing host security with SE Linux, National Security Agency. So I've been working in this space for a while, since probably I started there in 2007.
yeah, I would be looking to you to help us with workload identity and attestation of aggregated devices. So CPU plus GPU plus SmartNIC. I think I already mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
So right now it's not spelled out as such in this document. You're kind of under PCI, but you know, like perhaps you might want to word it somehow and put yourself down for specifically that aspect of it. I don't think it's very well understood right now, and maybe you can work with Thomas when it comes to the RATS architecture and how that might evolve.
Okay, yeah, and I also have some interaction with the Linux kernel community for upstreaming stuff as well.
Okay, so that would be your expertise would be invaluable there. So thank you, Brian.
Yeah, hi. My name is Brian Hogenberg. I'm from IBM, where I work on the IBM Zen and Linux One platforms, the mainframes, and we have a obvious interest in confidential computing from the technologies that we offer in that space. And I was recently appointed their certification and compliance lead. So I'm looking at this from a from a PCI common criteria sort of perspective in light of the technologies we have in our platform, which is a lot of the same Linux-based stuff that you would see in other areas, but will have a slightly different feel due to the architecture involved. I was referred here by Nicholas Matting. I hope he warned you that I was coming, but I'm here now.
Oh, okay, fantastic. Again, please take a look and see across these three axes of industry bodies, vendors, and frameworks, which ones you can help connect us with or evaluate our deliverables against.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, Hans.
Hi everyone. I'm a collaborator of a number of people here in this call, Usama, Thomas, Yogesh, and I don't know who else is there, but I'm a co-author of the WIMC architecture, so that's an area I'm definitely interested in. I'm trying to capture the bigger picture, because WIMC is not just focused on confidential computing, but in general on workload identity. So, but I think that's definitely an area where it needs some improvement and some content. I'm also working in RATS on different topics and also in LAMPs when it comes to the tested CSR, with some people on this call. What else?
And you're also pretty involved in regulatory work.
Yeah, and I'm also a professor in University of Applied Sciences in Bonn-Rhein-Sieg, near Bonn.
Yeah, well, that is fantastic, and also this when I said like regulatory is, you know, we need to understand from the GRC perspective what is happening in the workload identity space and how to best interact with these bodies.
Yeah.
If you do anything there, that would be, again, you can put yourself down on whatever you feel the industry body is that's developing relevant guidance. Oh, sorry, the standards body in that case.
Today, regulatory bodies are not really, as you know, not much aware of confidential containers? And
More and more so, I would say that the awareness is growing. Certainly in Singapore, certainly Luxembourg, certainly even without knowing it, the Cybersecurity Resiliency Act out of EU has interesting ties. So even if they're not aware, they need to be brought into the fold.
yeah,
Okay, but
definitely.
we'll do that as a part of a separate conversation. So, okay, we only have
Okay.
3 more. Mohammed?
Yeah, hello. So I'm Osama. So or my name says Mohammed Osama Sardar, but I'm in short like called as Osama. So
Yeah.
because it's a very common prefix in our country. Anyway, so I work a lot with the RATS working group, and as Hannes already just mentioned, we have been collaborating for a couple of years on attested TLS. That's something I also lead in the CCC attestation SIG project that we not on attested TLS. So there was a project that I led on the T attestation. We recently completed it last year, and now we have another project which I lead, which is the KBS Key Broker Service, and there we are trying to formalize some of the attestation related mechanisms. So what brings me here is more related to the WIMSI, and we are trying to see how the identity in attested TLS specifically can be mapped, because the current attested TLS protocols that we have analyzed do not really provide the identity that we need. And there are some technical hurdles within those, like the long-term identity specifically, which is required for authentication, is not provided, and that leads the way to many the middle attacks. So this is something that we are exploring, and that somehow relates to solving the problem of this workload identity in the confidential computing workspace. So this is something that I am looking forward to. I think that's pretty much it. I also work with like Thomas, Yogesh, and I think Hannes are already there. So yeah. So some of the people on the call, we are collaborating regarding a tested TLS, which is a draft in the TLS working group being proposed. And
Yes.
yeah.
So that brings me to, I just added, if you're watching my shared screen, I added a known issues section to this document. And Osama, since you said that there are some issues with our ATLS and identity, basically, if you're aware of an issue in this entire space that requires some sort of resolution, let's just start collecting them there, and then we'll address them, we'll parallel them out, address them in priority order and whatnot. Right now, we're just basically trying to have a full accounting of the space we're looking at. And then in subsequent weeks, we're going to start drilling down. So first, let's pile everything in. All right, Mari.
Hi. Yes, I'm Mari Spina. I work for MITRE. I lead the cloud security capability area. We're very interested in bringing confidential computing to the government, as well as zero trust solutions, which brings up workload identity has become very important. We're looking for easy ways to implement, in cloud adoption, so that we can begin to use the capability. I also do some work in the IEEE P2795 committee, where we want to get, and it came out of healthcare. When a doctor gets an analytic, we want a workload identity attestation to follow, so that there can be confidence in the result of the analytic when critical decisions are needed to be made from the analytic. So I will be to kind of resolve a number of issues by being a part of this.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, we're almost at the end. Ram.
Hey, hi, I'm Ram. I work for the IBM Cloud. I'm an architect at IBM Cloud doing confidential computing. Yeah, I've been interested in, actually, I'm also a backup member on the TCB of confidential computing, backing up Red Hat. along with IBM. So I've been interested in looking at what's going on in this confidential computing area and how does workload identity fit into that. So I'm more like checking out what's going on here and how I can bring stuff into our cloud and how does it apply to us. I can help.
Fantastic. So please take a look through the document and find out where you can insert yourself, what problems you can solve, who you can connect us with, etc. All right, almost done now. And Henk, everyone knows you, but that's just for sake of completeness.
Yeah, hi, I'm Henk. I'm using a cell phone right now, multiple thresholds here, located in Germany, working for the Internet Engineering Task Force and the Trusted Computing Group, but also I'm very involved in remote attestation for workload identification that are migrating. So migrating workloads, I think, is the key here. And reliable identifier composition of workloads, which I'm not entirely sure we are really set on. And then how to compose it, of course, it's a platform identification, either via endorsement hierarchies, or maybe via storage hierarchies, or maybe via attestation key hierarchies. I don't know yet, but I think these are options to explore here. And thank you.
All right, fantastic. So amazingly, just an intro took 30 minutes. So we have an amazing collection of talent here. So I'm very, very happy that with the level of interest this has generated. So let me sort of walk us through what I'm hoping the next couple of things would be. And this is not a complete list, just my input. Feel free after that to provide your own. So the first thing I would like to accomplish is I would like a detailed review of this musings. I already shared the link in the chat of this MD file that talk about the various requirements. So would be looking for bugs in the requirements as well. So let me point out one bug. So here I talk about a strong binding. This is my writing, my bug. So this is not me critiquing anyone in particular. Strong binding between identity, workload, and lineage. So I believe that's a good requirement. I would like to understand when I am looking at a workload, what's in its bill of materials. Does it have any known vulnerabilities? Is it from what kind of risk rating do I assign to the source of this workload? Yeah, so kind of generally shaped thing, but I would like to understand where you're from, much you would do with accepting any new member into a club. Where are you coming from? What do you represent? What's your history? That sort of thing. However, I will then say this is the bug, that one word cannot impersonate another. That is not a question of binding between identity and its lineage. It's about binding the identity to its credential and how secure its credential is, which is covered
Mark,
by
sorry, so
point 3.
can you zoom in a little bit?
Yes, I can. Yeah, apologize. My screen is big and right. So, all right. So the binding between identity, workload, and its lineage, it's not about spoofing. That's a question of you need it, but you achieve it via step 3. So that would be a bug. So I would like to encourage everyone to go through this critically, suggest pull requests that would change the set of requirements. But I would like that to be our foundational North Star. Okay.
Mark?
Yes.
Yeah.
What did so this write-up was written by you and you
Yes.
collected the requirements from different places?
It's me bringing my own perspective and that only.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. And this is why I would like us collectively to agree on some version of this. All right. And again, we'll be reviewing. Hopefully, we'll be doing a lot of work asynchronously, so somebody can make a pull request and do a comment. Let's do all of that because our meeting is going to be very pressed for time.
Mark, can I add? I'm thinking, so lineage, I think, has multiple aspects. You could have a history of relationships, or you could have a very reduced, who is the authority and is it authorized, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. I'll
So
add some
all
content.
comments like that go into some form of a discussion. We can use GitHub tools for that.
I was just going to make an update. Can I just go edit?
It's GitHub, so go for it. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
All right. The second thing I would like to do is I would like to start understanding, like specifically gap analysis. So, let's say I pick up Spiffy and I start looking at it and I say, well, does Spiffy do the things that the requirements document state we should? So how much of the North Star is Spiffy? And I would look at it and say, well, it certainly satisfies point 1. Right? Under Spiffy, 2 workloads can obtain credentials, and they can authenticate each other. And it's portable, it's standard-based, it supports the transport level, application level scenarios. Like Spiffy does that.
Well,
and I can basically.
Well, Spiffy does very little, actually.
Yes.
But yeah.
But
like
again, so this is so why is this question? If my employer decides to deploy Spiffy as our workload identity architecture, I would like to be able to come back and say, by making this decision, you will or will not, achieve the following requirements. And then perhaps we can influence Spiffy to do things differently. So what I'm looking to basically is to fill out a form of a matrix where in the columns you have your requirements, and then the rows you have various things. How close does Spiffy bring us? How close does Whimsy bring us? And perhaps we can do this for other standards and efforts out there. And that would give us this sort of gap analysis, and that would give us an idea of where do we push next. Again, that's my idea. I'm just putting it out there. We can have sort of a collaborative discussion around how we're going to meet our North Star. This would be one starting point. So at this point, I yield. Let's sort of talk about it so we know what it is we're doing over the next week.
So, Mark, a couple of things I want to say. One, first of all, Mike Purcell said he cannot attend this today.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to know whether is there a better slot than this 1 hour in advance or sometime later. So,
I mean, it's
it is what it is.
You have to ask. You have to ask everyone, and whether it works or not. Like we have a bunch of folks in Europe, so for them it's the evening already.
Yeah.
Right,
okay. So yeah. Another thing is we did the pull request. Are you planning to merge that before you plan to publish this or review outside of our
again, please work with me offline on that one. I know you proposed some changes. I thought some changes went in already. I would need to look.
Okay. Yeah. And I think on the third point was I did started working on an Excel sheet very similar to what you suggested now is to have a rows with requirements and then verticals which has what Whimsy can address or not, whether in toto attestation addresses or not, or stuff like that. So maybe I will share it offline after the call. Yeah.
Yeah, please. I'm trying to grant access requests as they come in. Okay, so going back to this. So there is a document that was written, I believe it's by you, Jens, right?
Yes.
The Whimsy gap analysis.
I started on it, so I don't see it as complete yet myself because I was unfortunately brutally attacked by a norovirus
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I also can't talk longer than like 3-4 minutes. But I'm very happy to have Professor Trofenik here, which is obviously an absolute way more than myself, an expert in this. But these were the things that did stand out to me by going through this document. Going through this document first in a quick glance, I would like to say. I'm still working on it. I just didn't have the time the last 2 days anymore.
I understand. So I would only make two sort of requests / recommendations. When discussing gap analysis, refer to the requirements in the musings document.
Yeah.
And as they change, I apologize for inconvenience. There may be some flux, but at least we know that we're mapping against the North Star. And
Yeah,
the
I didn't do
second,
that before, and
yeah.
it makes perfect sense.
All right. And so what I also want to leave time for, and we have 20 minutes left on the call, 23. I would like to focus the rest of the conversation today specifically on what it is that we're going to be bringing to the 122 WIMSY IETF. So I think folks who are closest to the WIMSY effort should probably speak up right now because they're going to have a 2-hour slot. Best we can hope for is perhaps a few minutes, maybe a quarter hour. So, who thinks they can bring something? What is that something? Who is going to the IETF? So we can have at least some representation there.
Yeah, I would be at the IETF meeting in Bangkok.
Yeah, I as well.
Okay, so what does, ideally, we would need to present something to focus the minds. What is that something? Is it our North Star that we bring them and basically say we're hoping to accomplish this? Is it some sort of analysis of where we're falling short and soliciting inputs? Like what, if we say we did convince Whimsy to give us a time slot, what is in that time slot?
I think just my 5 cents. I think it would be good to create the awareness for the importance of confidential computing also in the workload identity space, because today it's very much focused on the rest of the workload identity stuff, like this Kubernetes and that type of technologies.
Yes.
Because even
So this
in
is-
my discussions, like I brought this up at the last virtual intro meeting of the group early this year, and it seems there's still sort of the perception that many of the machinery, specifically related to remote attestation, is kind of someone else's business. But I think it's integral to the whole story if we take a bigger picture approach. Like even the question of like where do the credentials really come from before they get passed into containers is an important one.
Hey, Hank, you raised your hand.
Yeah, so as the topics to be in the Whimsy group, I'm not entirely sure how contentious those questions would be, so maybe we not do that or tone it down. But I'm having a hard time understanding how the composite of a workload identifier and I want to say, platform provided identity document would work. I mean, that's also what I did not hear is that these workloads will change the physical host while remaining the same thing. So that the workload identification, of course, is cool. But as Hannes said, I think it might be a little bit dropping off the table that remote attestation requires the composite of where it is running, what capabilities for trustworthiness and for confidentiality are provided. And if those things change when the whole identification document, that is the composite of the application in combination with the device, which is now abstracting platform for ROTs and HSMs and of course, workload identifier generation. That's not there. So I made a comment on the document. Maybe we should, because it felt to me like in the document that it was clear how workload identification really looks like, what the composition is, how it is implemented, and that's an easy pointer. I found it not to be an easy pointer. Also, unfortunately, in the context of WIMSI, and then that the base for that identifier to be consumed and then made into as long as the workload resides on this host, viable composite identification document. I have no idea how that works.
Yeah.
And that is why I made the comment, and you highlighted just add it, and okay, but what to add? That's the problem.
Right. So, I mean, I have some thoughts on that, which I don't know if right now is the right forum, but if I were to just give it 30 seconds, I believe that, there are sort of a few axes here again. So I'm going to shelve the issue of workload migration for a second, but it's something that needs to be addressed, right? So as a workload migrates, some attributes of the device on which it runs may change while the workload attributes themselves remain the same. So let's, again, put a pin in it. The second one is there are single workload devices and multi-workload devices. And for single workload devices, you can kind of think about device properties and platform properties being indistinguishable from workload properties. But so again, it may be the case. I think in the majority of cases is you're going to have a single device hosting multiple workloads and often multiple mutually distrustful workloads. And in that case, the identity of a workload really needs to be a set of claims, perhaps, about the workload itself. So I am payrolled application. I am, satisfy the confidentiality level of X, blah, blah, blah. You can go down the list. And then I'm running on a device where the, physical location is Germany. Right. And effectively what you need is some, and perhaps in our eventual reference architecture, we can mention that you pool together workload properties with the platform properties, and you talk about how these things relate to each other, how they may evolve, or how they may handle migration, etc.
Okay, so I understand that migration is way more complicated, so pin accepted. And but the other part, that's just some arbitrary attributes that be combined. It's really, again, which key material is allowed to talk about which, what does the composition, which key material is used to do the composition, and why it should be trustworthy in the first place. And that's all the remote attestation part that seems to be a little bit hand wavy. And yeah, but I think we are like mostly in wide agreement here. So let's not devolve here and do the work. Yeah.
Okay, so we can put that, we can perhaps, your best wording of this, Hank, should probably go here under known issues. So again, if you have an issue that we'll need to address, we can throw it in there. And describe it to the best of your ability so we don't have to revisit it. And then we'll come back and we will basically dedicate time to each of these known issues in some order, and we'll also see how they relate to each other.
Thank you.
Okay. So again, now we have 15 minutes left. I would like to propose, that we arrive at some mechanism for, agree on a mechanism for how we're going to present or attempt to present at IETF 1 to 2. I still want to know.
So I think, oh, sorry, I didn't realize hands were up.
Usama, you have your hands up before me, so.
Yeah, thanks, Yogesh and David. So what I was going to say was I kind of want to go back to what Hannes said. I think that's a very important point. And where do the credentials actually come from if we do not have any idea of the input, what are we then talking about? So the most of the protocols, so protocol maybe is a very specific part of the thing related to workload, not maybe directly related to the workload at least, but the protocols are dependent on that. And then the attestation mechanism is dependent on that. Then confidential computing is dependent on that. So I think that's a very important point that Whimsy can actually handle. So there is a protocol document, I think that is S2S something. So that can target this kind of thing, that where did and actually in the last IETF meeting, I did ask them about this. So if the credentials, we don't know where they are coming from, that is just assumed to be there. So I don't think then there is much to do. So you just assume that somehow out of magic, it has the long-term key. It has the credentials that it needs to talk to someone else. I think that's the first problem which needs to be solved. And the most important one in my mind, because otherwise you are just making assumptions that are not really true.
Okay,
That
fair
it
enough.
has,
So
has
again,
something.
you can put that on the known issues, right? I mean, I agree with you. I think it's an important one to figure out and have an agreement on. It's just we're not going to have the bandwidth to even fully articulate the problem right now.
Yeah, sure. But my point was simply that it's something that we can take to the Whimsy group. So my point was
Okay.
not to elaborate on my
All right,
own
so
issues.
we
So the
can
point was
certainly
to,
formulate it. Yeah.
I
And
kind of agree with Hannes what he said, that that's an important issue to take to the Whimsy group.
okay, fair enough. So
Yeah.
Yogesh, you're next.
Yeah. So basically, my personal feel is that whatever you are doing, like capturing the requirements for workload identity coming from CCC perspective, is something we should put forward in a summary or a gist, along with the use cases in CCC, which so the CCC use cases which impacts workload identity, remote attestation, and whatever is of significance, we should put forward those use cases so that Whimsy group, it's kind of communicating to them that there is this group which also is talking about workload identity, and these are the set of requirements coming from our group.
That may be a very good, just a short presentation saying, look, we're interested in collaborating with you. Confidential computing has the following requirements. Here is our summary. Give it 15 minutes. And then that becomes sort of the fodder for conversations going forward. I like that. But again, we'll need to agree as a working group. But yes, excellent input. David.
So I was going to say something similar to what Yogesh just said. When I started a long road of IETF standardization work a long time ago, it was very much a kind of, and obviously every working group works different, but it was very structured. The first time I went in, I was like, these were the deficiencies I discovered. These were my requirements. This was, what I was looking for from the group, and how do we move forward from here? And that was very, very quick. I think I got 30 minutes just because there were people with questions at that working group. But then it was very much here's our requirements. Here's the gap analysis of where the requirements are, where what we require and what you're requiring are different, and things like that. And it just kept stepping forward a little bit at a time into these bite-sized chunks at each meeting. That was like, just give me 30 minutes. I'll give you what the next steps for the next 3 months are, or are we on 4-month cadences now? I forget how often between IETF.
So I heard that a couple of you folks, Hans, I forget who else, are going to actually, Osama, I heard you said that will be at the IETF. I think we need a volunteer to prepare that presentation and to get it on the Whimsy calendar. And whoever has any pool, acquaintances within Whimsy who might help us get that representation, should then act with them and say, give us a time slot.
So this is Hank. I think Yogesh already volunteered to do the kickstarting of the slides. I think there are a few individuals on Bangkok, in Bangkok side, including me, and a presentation by an individual is nice. I think Hannes is there, and I don't want to bias any decisions here, but I think Hannes is a good presenter for this. and
I've been voluntold.
Others, yeah. See, you have been voluntold. Thank you so much.
He has to remove, Hannes has to remove his Whimsy hat off while discussing. because
Yeah,
he,
but
yeah,
it's a good point. It's a good. It's in the interim. Hannes already presented this, so that's not a super shock. 2 slides about remote attestation, very abstract. Now we are getting into the meat of it. Yogesh, if you could do the content design
yeah,
for the slide deck. Whoever does the ask, I think that's not a difficult thing. And if Hannes is on site and has no conflict with the Whimsy WG session layout of the actual agenda at the end, that would be great.
sure.
Okay, to wrap up, we have 8 minutes left. I want to make sure that I do sort of a quick summary of what we agreed on. We're going to seek to present at IETF 1 to 2, and we just discussed sort of responsibilities around that, finding the contact, getting on schedule, presenting an idea, like building the presentation and then actually physically presenting it. So that's sort of one set of outcomes. The second set of outcomes is a collective review of requirements, as written today by me, but let's make it something that we can all get behind. That would be number 2. And number 3 is we're initiating gap analysis of various things out there. So again, here I'm looking at, architectures like Whimsy and Rats. I'm looking at vendor offerings like Spiffy and perhaps Hashmesh, and others as you see fit, that we can basically map them against the requirements to see, how far along we get, and then figure out what is the frontier against which we need to push. Anything I missed?
Yeah, I think the known issue task, so some names have been virtually assigned to the known issue list, and expressing these issues, which can be various, I guess, is of high importance because we have to see them early and prune them and prioritize them.
So are you suggesting that we go and fill out this known issues section?
Yeah, you at least, I think, implied that 3 people should add the issues here. I think that's an action item there for somebody.
Again, I'm trying to operationalize what you just said. Perhaps my brain isn't working very fast right now.
Okay, action is next to the 3 items you said, a summary to please file your issues in the form of text here in this document. That's the 4th action that I was thinking missing from the summary, sorry.
I just noticed David's hand is still up. David, is it still have a question?
Yeah, I had a suggestion for Mark that might make it easier to get a time slot or more substantial time slot. So not all internet drafts have to be tied to a working group. You can file what are called personal internet drafts, and it seems like you have a pretty solid set of requirements set up in your requirements document. Obviously, we're still making changes to it, but it seems like you have at least an initial idea of requirements from your perspective. You might want to draw up like a personal internet draft for requirements for confidential identity management and requirements for workload identity in confidential compute environments. And if you had that, you can put it up on the IETF site as a personal internet draft, and that might drive a longer discussion time for the topic if you need more time for it, because it sounds like you have something similar already written in the form of that other document. It's just it's not an IETF format, which is
I don't know.
That's a lot easier than generating content.
I'm sure it's. I would take your suggestion, but only after we collectively, as a group, agree on what those requirements are. Like, I do not want to be speaking for myself only. So once we can do it, still an individual personal internet draft, but on behalf of us as a group.
Yeah, there will be a lead name. That's not an issue. Individual drafts can be associated with a working group. That's not an official adoption, of course, but they are more visible by the working group. via the data tracker. So that is a decision. So if we want to create an individual ID, the question is, do we want to associate with an existing working group, like, for example, Whimsy? Or is it rats? I don't know. I assume it's Windsor. And so that's one item. And also the initial the next cutoff date is March 3rd. I think that's a little bit of a tight schedule to write something together and agree on the requirements. So I'm not entirely sure we can hold that deadline.
Well, we have a couple of weeks. So if we crank the review effort on the requirements, then perhaps by this time, when we meet next week, we can go over the comments and get to a point where say these are close enough.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Then
So maybe I'm
we could publish
pessimistic. Let's be optimistic. Let's do this.
I mean, people haven't read the requirements yet, Mark. So let them review it, comment it, and then maybe we can take a call next Wednesday's meeting, whether which direction we want to pursue.
Yes,
Right.
we'll do that. In the meantime, whatever you can do for Whimsy, just to make sure we're on their radar and we're not coming in last minute where all the slots are already taken. Anyone with a pool at the ITF at that level should probably get a head start.
Yeah, I think the first thing we need to is to write an email to the Whimsy chairs to asking for a slot. Anas, are you going to take that?
I would like somebody to do it who has a pre-existing relationship with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can send them a message.
Yeah.
We'll do that right now. 15 minutes. Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. That's all I have. With 2 minutes left, anybody else, any parting words? All right. Well, good meeting. I'll see you all in a week, and we will be reviewing the requirements.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
Last thing. Yeah, still struggling with access. I know you were granting it, but it was Google Drive, not GitHub, right? Maybe
The
you gave me
requirements,
access.
this is GitHub.
Okay, that's not the link. Okay.
And
I thought you
this
said
is
the
the
link was in
requirements
the.
document. This is the requirements document. So this is our just working group, whatever draft that
Is that
captures.
that was the link you provided in the
Okay,
in the chat?
let me put them in the chat again. So the one you're looking at right now, our
the notes
collective
are in the
draft.
Google Drive, right? And the
notes,
write-up on the requirements are on GitHub. Is that correct?
The requirements are on GitHub right here, yes. And all our other working documents are in this Google Drive.
So
Yeah,
Mark, I'll say this, I can access the document link you said in this Google Drive, but if I go to the Google Drive, that link doesn't work.
Okay,
But
that
I could
drive,
use that. Why don't you give us
yeah.
that link too, maybe?
The
Google
folder
Drive link, I just pasted.
The GitHub one, maybe.
Can you share the folder instead of the doc? Because I think
So
you put in.
the last link I just put in chat. Wait, is it? No, sorry.
No, you did put the folder. I don't, that one I requested
Okay,
access,
this
but
is
I
the
can
folder.
actually, yeah.
Oh,
And this
okay.
one
This is the
doesn't work.
folder. So I've been putting things in my private email chat with Mari. So this is the folder. These are the requirements. All right. Thank you all. Feel free to reach me. I'll drop my private email here. Shoot me an email if you need anything.
Awesome. Nice job.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mark.
Mark.
Thank you all. Okay, bye-bye. See you in a week.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.